From flight cancellations due to airport staff shortages, airline strikes and COVID-19 outbreaks, there is a lot to consider when travelling abroad this summer. We want to look at what your rights are if your long-awaited holiday has been disrupted. Eoghan Corry is editor of Air and Travel magazine and he joins me in studio now. Hello, how are you?
Good morning, Philip.
What are my rights if my flight is cancelled?
Your airline has to get you exactly where you're supposed to be going as quickly as possible. They're pretty good at it. Most people are being landed within the day. If you're, it's not going to be an airport 90 kilometres away. It's got to be the airport you're supposed to be at. The way they're doing that is they're rerouting through a third airport if they have to. A lot of the cancellations, particularly if you have a choice in what to cancel, let's say you're under pressure, cabin crew wise, you know that your roster isn't going to make it, you're going to cancel a flight that's going to be easy to reaccommodate the passengers. A good example would be Heathrow. We've got 12 flights a day from Aer Lingus, so you put them on another flight, reroute them through a third airport. That's going on a lot. And then sometimes you have a situation where maybe there's only 2 flights a week, and that is a little bit more difficult for airlines. But most people are being accommodated within the day. And the good news is the number of cancellations is way down. We've no cancellations out of Dublin today. The bad news on the other side is Heathrow has extended, as of this morning, its mandate on airlines to reduce the number of flights departing the airport into October.
Are all airlines equal in getting you where you want to go, not near where you want to go, but actually to where you want to go and in quick order?
Absolutely.
They are.
There is no choice on this. It's mandated. So, I mean, there are, there will be, there is a duty of care on part of the airline. Where we've seen the breakdown, though, is in the customer communications. Quite clearly, when we were running at a situation where we had 12, 14 cancellations a day, which we had not so long ago in Dublin Airport, the website couldn't handle it, the app couldn't handle it, the call desk couldn't handle it. The travel agent has a little bit of an advantage if you've booked through a travel agent. They can do the rescheduling and the reissue of the ticket. Otherwise, it was turning out to be a big wait to get through to the airline. But can one airline just decide, I'm not going to bring them to where they're supposed to, I'll bring them to Girona instead of Barcelona? No, that's not an option under EU Regulation 261, of which listeners be very familiar with. It's been around for 18 years now.
What of any additional costs that I might accrue if I have to stay unavoidably a night or an extra night? Can I give them receipts for hotels and restaurants?
Yes, that's how it works. When the receipts get complex, that you're in the twilight zone, airlines, like all of us, when they see something familiar, they know how to act. So if they're getting something saying we have to stay overnight ourselves, the airline will accommodate you, by the way, particularly on the return flight, and they've a full load of 174 passengers on an A320 or 189 on a 737, they're going to put them in a hotel. You don't have to worry about that. Now, where passengers are deciding themselves that they have meals to pay, meals to buy for family or overnight accommodation, it's a little bit more complicated, but it's still quite familiar for the airline. Where it gets complicated is the knock-on expenses. Then people claim for things that really aren't immediately apparent, to which is basically the accommodation, the transfer and the flight. Once you're in that territory, you could be in a position where it's disputed. And
are you talking about not the beers because I was really annoyed at having to stay here for an extra 2 days kind of costs?
Well, that's a bit of an extreme example, but there are people who've missed concerts and matches and things like that. By the way, the option of not travelling and getting a refund is pretty laid out. That's absolutely standard. You have that option. Where it gets complicated is people saying weddings, all of that sort of stuff. That's knock-on stuff. That is the And you got to remember, airlines are not insurers of last resort for all the eventualities of your transfer, your car hire, all of that. That's what travel insurance does best, and that brings you into the travel insurance.
Okay, let's get on to some listener questions here, please. Owen, a question about a misconnection flight, please. My daughter was flying recently with a connection through Vienna. The outbound flight was delayed by an hour, so my daughter missed her connection. She had to book with another airline, as the original one was not flying again for 2 days. The original connecting flight cost just over €100, but the one-way flight she booked subsequently cost almost €400. The airline is saying her flight was not cancelled, nor was it delayed. It did actually depart. She just missed it. Does she have any rights to claim the cost of the rebooked flight?
Yes, if it's a through ticket. No, if it's not. If you have booked with Austrian and said they've handled both legs of that ticket, it's their responsibility. If you've decided to fly to Vienna and booked a separate ticket on another airline independently, it's your responsibility. So you don't have any comeback there, unless you have travel insurance with connection with a connection clause in it, which a lot of people have at the moment.
Okay, and you've insured both legs, basically, is what you're saying. Okay, Anne has been in touch. She is wondering, is there a way to speak to a real person in Booking.com? They got the number of guests wrong in our booking, and the property is saying there will be a charge for the extra person. I just can't sort it out on the website and want to talk to someone.
No. You won't get a real person. I don't know if a real person exists in Booking.com. The real problem with not just Booking, but all the intermediaries is that they are so automated. They're built in the tech age with very little staff. So the old days of getting someone to pick up a phone on the other side, even the airlines are phasing that out. If you're getting in touch with someone, the two most effective ways are web chat and the direct tweet. The direct tweet is getting responses. There is another issue in that if you're booking through a third party, and the whole third party game fell apart massively during COVID, for when people started chasing refunds, airlines don't have the sort of visibility that they would like of who you are and what your circumstances are. And we are finding that now with the cancellations and the misconnections that airlines like Aer Lingus, and let's face it, most of our flights out of Ireland are Aer Lingus or Ryanair, they are dealing with people who've booked on their website and prioritising those. If you've booked through a third party, all sorts of difficulties landing.
Here's one that speaks to what you were talking about in terms of complex receipts. This listener says, we had a flight cancelled from Manchester to Dublin. Flight was due to take off at 6, and at 12 they cancelled it, transferred everyone to a hotel until 6 a.m, flight at 8 a.m. Hugely inconvenient. The airline blamed the weather. Every other flight took off that day except ours. I'm wondering, do they need to credit us for that flight? Are they entitled to anything for the inconvenience?
You are entitled to compensation for inconvenience, but when an airline claims that they had to cancel due to extraordinary circumstances. Extraordinary circumstances includes the weather. Now, if you chase this, and there's lots of case law because EU 261 has been fought through every court in Europe, every national court system in Europe, right up to European level, it's up to them to say it was extraordinary circumstances. And we have had cases where airlines have said it's extraordinary and been found not to.
Owen, thank you very much.
Always a pleasure, Phil.